Happy Sunday, and welcome back once again to Talk of the Town. My name is Lauren Elwell. Alongside me, my husband, Tim Elwell.
Hi, good to be here.
And today we have a guest, and this is the first of our kind with as far as promoting another show than Talk of the Town, which I love. We have Mr. Langford Cunningham. He is the host of Blind City, the podcast, which you can find at blindcitythepodcast.com. Langford, welcome to Talk of the Town.
Thank you. Thank both of you for giving me the platform. I appreciate it.
Yes, and what a platform you have. I want to go into your biography first because I think your story is so interesting. So if you could just enlighten everybody to who you are and how you got to starting a podcast.
Yes, I sure will. My name's Langford Cunningham, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. And about 15 years, 20 years, I dedicated myself to at-risk youth. I earned a degree in criminal justice from Sanford Brown, and I started off at the state prison as a drug rehab counselor, and then I transferred to juvenile detention where I created lesson plans and life skills to try to keep the kids off the street. Once they came in juvenile detention, I tried to deter them from coming in there and then get them back out in society, living a productive life. And then that's where I started realizing the challenges we were having with the murders and I mean, kids as far as 12 years old coming in with murder cases.
Wow.
And I knew we were in trouble in St. Louis, and this was like 7-8 years ago.
Criminal justice, where was that interest founded in you to study criminal justice?
It was just a passion. It was just, I wanted to make a difference in my community. I was raised over on Shreve and Betsy, one of the highest crime rate neighborhoods, and I just saw the path of destruction that kids were getting involved with just because of, the parenting foundation that was pretty much deterred by the pipeline to prison. And then some of the school programs were canceled, like the truancy program, and kids were left out on the streets, and they just start hanging with the wrong people. Anytime you kick kids out of school, especially trouble kids, they get together, and next, they getting in trouble. They go from breaking into cars, stealing cars, and then they come in juvenile detention. They get a slap on the wrist. They come back. They go back out in the streets. They commit another crime. So about 4 or 5 times they keep coming back in juvenile detention. By the time they get 16, some of them committed murders now.
It's so true that the system, in quotes, it is such a, I don't know if it's working, I don't know if it's working that we are not reinforcing people who make a mistake to when they come back out to, in quotes, normal existence again, I don't know if there's a platform or the help that's out there yet to help people be reintroduced to society.
Exactly. But we need a lot of therapy. We need a lot of, my times when I was in prison and juvenile detention, we had a lot of disciplinarians, but the disciplinarians inside these institutions were more, they didn't know how to do therapy with the inmates. They didn't know how to do therapy with the at-risk youth. It was kind of a dictatorship they were running. And when I went into juvenile detention, God bless, I had a supervisor that believed in me to start running programs up there talking with these kids, because you just can't run a dictatorship. You just can't tell a kid, shut up, sit down. Right. You got to create a relationship with these kids where they can earn a trust with you, where you can really start trying to change their life. But they have to trust. They have to trust you, just like with the situations now in the streets with the police. We got to create that trust factor with the police, because right now it's out of control. You got to establish trust with anybody you meet if you really want to engage in a more better friendship with them.
Well, and if you want to, I'm just a huge component of empathy, and I feel like there, listening and empathy and understanding, everybody has a different walk to their life, and what works for one may not work for all. And I think that you hit it right on the head with the trust factor. Some people, I have a family member, for instance, who went to prison a couple of times, and in my opinion, this person did not have the best home life. They did not have somebody guiding them to make better choices and to also be there when they did make mistakes, to come clean about it. And I feel like if this person in my family would have had a role model who they could trust and also be there to help them when they couldn't find their footing themselves, his trajectory would have been a little easier, and maybe he would have not had gone to prison had he had better representation within his immediate family.
Exactly. And see, life is an amazing journey. You know, you go through your ups and downs like myself. So while I was working at juvenile detention, my life wasn't always structured when I was working. Yeah, I was telling kids one thing, but I was going into the bars and the nightclubs, and I was a womanizer. I was dating a whole bunch of women. I didn't have a personal relationship with God. So my addiction came from just the materialism of what the world offered. I wasn't structured in that because, you know, as a little boy, as you grow up, they don't teach us to chase our health. They teach us to chase wealth. And I became addicted to that. And at the same time, I forgot about my health. So I woke up one morning, my eyes were bloodshot red. I thought, because at that time I was an alcoholic. I was drinking a lot of beers. I just thought it was the alcohol. But after 2 or 3 days, I said, wait a minute, I need to go to the doctor. So I go to the ophthalmologist. He looks in my eyes. He scoots the chair back. Anytime a doctor scoots the chair back, you're in trouble. And he says, anybody in your family had glaucoma, Mr. Cunningham? I said, yes. My father went blind. He said, well, your eye pressure is up to 45. Now, normal eye pressure is between 12 and 15. They had to rush me into surgery. I had 31 surgeries, but they couldn't save my sight. They could not save my sight. And I thought this was the end of the world. And all those materialism things I was worshiping, once I got back home, I couldn't see all those cars I had no more. I couldn't see my beautiful house no more in West County. I was ready to tap out. I'm like, I'm done. I'm ready to leave here. I tried hanging myself. I wasn't successful. I tried to put a gun in my mouth, make sure it was loaded. I pulled the trigger. It jammed up.
Wow.
Then I tried popping pills. I called a friend, and listen to this when I say this. I called a friend to bring me some pills because I'm ready to leave here. Now, this is supposed to be my friend. He's on his way to bring me some pills.
Right.
So watch your friends out there in reality. They really not your friends. So make sure you got some real good friends so when you go through something, they really have your best interest. But on his way bringing me the pills, he gets pulled over by the state trooper. And I'm wondering, where is he at? So I call the phone, and the state trooper answers the phone, say, you waiting for somebody? And I dropped the phone. Say, we're handcuffing him now because we found drugs in the car. And right there at that time, I heard a voice, and it told me, now either you can listen to me and come my way, and I will let you know what your next journey in life is, or you can go the other way. But I promise I can't tell you what's going to happen because I'm going to take my hands off you. And right there, I gave my life to God. I gave my life to God.
What a beautiful, I mean, unfortunately you had to lose your eyesight, but you got a sense of sight like no other.
I had to lose my sight to find my vision.
Right.
And that's when Blind City, the podcast, was created because I wanted to make sure other people don't lose sight of their vision, not just in 2020 with your eyesight, but your purpose in life.
I'm reading from blindcitythepodcast.com. It says that your mission, a community blinded by racism, crime, and poverty, a podcast and platform that pumps truth and life into the veins of troubled young men and women in St. Louis, Missouri, and throughout the world. Langford, you had a whole life right there come before you, and then you decided to not only take this, new sight that you have with your faith, but you also wanted to continue to help at-risk youth and people that could possibly still be on this dangerous trajectory. How did you go about knowing that a podcast platform was what you needed to do?
Well, once they told me I could no longer work no more, and because I was blind, and then once I started meeting with other institutions that help blind people out, the jobs weren't paying enough that I would normally make when I got my degree, and so that's where God gave me the vision to create Blind City Podcast, and that would create me to meet other people, to get people on my platform to speak about these issues that we're dealing with in our community, and also to network, and then get my nonprofit started, in which I did, is Redemption Academy, where we can really get out there in the streets and help people who have drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sex trafficking issues, domestic abuse, just to get out there and help people. But the platform for the podcast was to network and create a stage where people can come and talk about solutions for the community, and also bring people in that are dealing with these addictions and going through the same type of pain, to get them to talk about it. People call us the therapy for the streets. Blind City, the podcast, is the therapy for the streets.
I love that so much. I think that's such a perfect saying to go alongside the podcast, because talk about some of the subjects that you've had on the podcast, the people who you've met, their stories who you've heard and shared. Has anybody really stood out among the many different interviews you've done?
Yes, I mean, we had Cori Bush on there. Congratulations to her winning that seat. But she came on there before she was running, and she gave me an opportunity, and she believed in what I was doing. Michael Brown Sr. came on there as well, to discuss what he's been dealing with since his son's lost in Ferguson. Demetrius Johnson. I had a lady from sex trafficking by the name of Woman of Faith. I can't give her real name because she is so deep in the streets, where she rescued girls that are from sex trafficking. So, like I say, it is definitely alarming, but it's inspiring for people who are going through this, and for people who don't know about it. It creates awareness to what's going on, because the news don't give you all the information. It just gives you the entertainment part. Oh, somebody got shot or somebody got kidnapped. But we're going to give you why these things are happening in our community.
Well, and I think also with the news, because we are here in the media, I think that, there's only so much time that one can deliver a very deep story in a 30-second or, 30-second newscast, right?
Exactly.
And I think podcasts and shows like yours are such an asset right now for people who are curious and who are deeply affected and want to see change happen. I think the stories that the people that come on podcasts like yours, they need to be heard. And, something that is hard to talk about are all of the things that we just discussed: sex trafficking, racism in our community, the crime that's happening, poverty. These are all such massive subjects, but they're real and they're happening. And it's like, the more I feel that people put their head in the sand, nothing is going to change.
Exactly. And that's why the podcast is created, and hopefully we can make a change in these next couple of years, because it's not going to happen overnight. But if we can all come together and hear each other's issues, no matter who's a Republican, no matter who's a Democrat, let's stand on the side of right and wrong. Right. What happened to those days? If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. It doesn't matter what you represent or what fraternity you're part of or what organization. Let's get back to humanity. We have to get back to humanity, because we all came from a woman.
That's true. So true.
Yes. We didn't know what race was when we were born.
God, that's so true, right? I've always been somebody who I subscribe to the idea that racism starts at home.
Exactly.
It starts under the roof you are born into, and there are many families out there who are challenging it head on and discussing it with their children, and I think that's such a beautiful thing, and I hope that maybe anything that anybody's taking away from this episode is, really take a look at how you are approaching the top massive issues in this country, and and ask yourself, am I adding to the problem or adding to the solution?
Exactly. And I wanted to bring solutions to some of this pollution in our community. And people that come on the show, people come to the show, they offer solutions to what's going on out here in these streets.
And I also enjoy that you have a faith background. Obviously, I think one thing that people can really find solace in and just, comfort in is any sort of community that is welcoming and understanding. And there's so many different faiths or non-faiths out there, just whatever good communities people are in. Talk a little bit about how faith plays a role in your podcast.
Well, faith plays a lot with me, because once you lose your sight, that's all you got to hold on to is your faith. especially when you didn't have sight for 51 years. It wasn't an easy transition. Faith plays a part with my podcast. When people meet me and see me, they get inspired. They're like, man, you blind and you trying to help other people.
Right.
So they're caught by that at the moment. And then it kind of energizes them where they get comfortable and can really speak how they feel about what they're going through. And then sometimes when you look at what you're going through and then look at somebody else, what they're going through, you kind of find out you really don't have no problem.
Right.
So
even
true. Even with my sight, I have a friend right now who is 45 years old. He's fighting for his life with cancer. It went from his legs to his lungs.
Wow.
I'm blessed and I pray for him. But there's other people out there that are dealing with other issues, and sometimes we forget because we get so focused on our personal lives. And that's what happened to me. I got so caught up in the materialism and the other things in life, but we're not paying attention to the things that really is a gift to us. We go out for the holidays to buy gifts, but we don't look for the gifts in each other.
Gosh, it's so true. I was just having this conversation last week with my mom because, the 2020 with the pandemic, many things have changed on so many different levels, many in the negative, but some in the positive. And I think one beautiful thing that's come out of the year 2020 is the gratitude that people have for the things that they have that are just inherited, the people in their lives, the health that they have today. And I think that is kind of a beautiful message that has really resonated with everyone across the world this year, is to just be thankful for what you have that can't be taken from you,
Exactly. And don't take life for granted.
Right.
Let me say this again to your listening audience. Do not take life for granted. Be appreciative for every breath, every moment you have with your significant other, because life is a blessing.
It is.
It takes a minute to pray, but a second to die.
That is so true.
Don't take life for granted.
You have a motivational speaking, I guess I would call it like a series. Like you go out and you motivate people. Is that right?
Well, yes. Well, I haven't been going out with this pandemic.
Right. Well, you're coming on our show, and hopefully it's motivating people by what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
But I see here that it says designed as teaching modules, and you have things like school-based sessions, juvenile detention sessions, adult detention sessions, families and church sessions. Pick those apart for us a little bit and give us a little insight to what you were doing and how maybe you're doing those sessions in 2020.
Well, those sessions I'm still critiquing because when I was working in juvenile detention, I was running a lot of life skill groups with the kids, and basically with them, I would just wanted the honesty to come out of them. Sometimes they come into juvenile detention and they don't want to take accountability of the crime that they committed. They always blamed it. Oh, it was the friends I was hanging with, Mr. C. That's what they called me in juvenile detention, Mr. C. But I'm saying you're hanging with the wrong friends, though. Mm. The wrong friends are getting you in trouble. Yeah, you might then rob the guy, but you were with the group that robbed the guy.
Right.
You're just as guilty. So I wanted to teach accountability to our youth today. They don't want to take accountability. So I really stand on accountability for our community. And far as the others that I do with people and just grown men with alcohol addiction or substance abuse, it's the same thing. Accountability. People don't want to take accountability no more. It's hard for people to take accountability. It's hard to look in the mirror and say, I'm a heroin addict.
Right.
It's hard to say, oh, I'm a drunk. That's what I had to do. When I tried killing myself, I don't like talking about it, but I have to talk about it because there's somebody listening right now who might be on the ledge. Absolutely. Who might be on the ledge and ready to jump. And the sad thing about that is we live in society today. Everybody's looking at the guy that's finna jump, and they got their cameras out, but nobody's running to the fire escape. Nobody's running in the building to catch the elevator or run up the stairs to get to the window. Say, hey, man, God loves you. You don't need to jump. Society today, people saying jump so they can take a picture, get it on the iPhone, and put it on Facebook.
Yeah. Gosh, I hate thinking of that, and it's in so many ways it's true that the sensationalism of tragedy and just the stigma of mental health that's still, I think I want to say in 2020, the stigma of mental health is better than it was 25 years ago, that we are able to say aloud things like, yes, I was having a suicidal thought or a moment. And there's so many resources out there, which, by the way, I have to tell you, I love that at blindcitythepodcast.com, along with your episodes, which can be listened to via YouTube, you also have a part of your website that has so many different crisis hotlines for any and every type of problem somebody could possibly have. And I just love that you took it upon yourself to use your platform and your web space, and you decided to say, hey, here are the numbers to call if you, the viewer, are having any sort of problem. I think that's really beautiful.
And you're right, because you never know who's listening or watching. You never know who's going searching through Google or searching through the internet that may come across your website. You don't know what dilemma they may be going through, just like people that listen to your show. You never know what people are dealing with at that moment. And that's why I stress right now to your listening audience, if anybody's having an issue, please go to my website and see some of those hotline numbers, and please use it if you need it, because God loves you. I love you. You know, we live in very, very difficult times. The pandemic right now, people are isolated right now. People are isolated right now. You don't know if they're in trouble with domestic abuse in the house, and sex trafficking is up. Anytime people are isolated, we have to pay attention to that. Not just to the pandemic. We got to pay attention to that too, but there's other things going on while the pandemic is moving.
Yeah, in Langford, we were doing some show prep for this interview, and I was describing your podcast to Lauren as kind of being the pulse of the street and the pulse of the community. What do you see happening here in the future as far as what you plan to do? What's on the horizon for Blind City, the podcast?
Man, we got great things. All blessings to God, man, and to the people that really participated in some of my interviews and came onto the show, and the way the community has accepted Blind City, the podcast. I'm very humbled. I'm very humbled. We're looking to get more bigger guests. We're looking to get more therapists to come onto the show, really to where we really can help people. Get more doctors coming on as well. I really want to get deeper into this therapy, what people are dealing with out here, and try to make St. Louis a better place. I'm so tired of this racism crap.
Yeah,
I'm tired. That's been plaguing our community for years. I just want to try to improve the relations from West County to the north side of St. Louis, you know, because we're all humanity. We're all one part. We all make this city go. We all make this city go. And I just want to try to make it better for everyone in our city.
Yeah, and I was listening to one of your episodes, and you did focus on therapists, just like you said, getting into the community and helping with that mental health for young people. How has that played a role for you, just you having your mental health therapy, and then also taking what you learned from juvenile detention centers that you worked at, and then bringing that to the podcast?
Well, I started noticing mental health even with myself. Like I said, what I went through, you know, I never thought in my life I would commit suicide because my life was so great. Matter of fact, when I was working in juvenile detention, it was about 5 years ago, I saved a kid from hanging himself in a cell. He had tied the bed sheet to the air vent, and I went to do my checks, and I looked in, and I saw his feet dangling.
Wow.
And I called for help. We opened the door. We finally got him down, and as I was trying to untie the bed sheet around his throat, he was saying, "Let me die, let me die."
Wow.
And here I am, 2 years later, trying to kill myself.
Wow.
So I knew I had to get help, and I seeked help. Got it. So I'm telling people out there today, don't be scared to go seek help if you're dealing with any mental issues. We have to take accountability for ourselves. Don't feel embarrassed. The best thing you can do is help yourself and save yourself to make yourself a better person. It's only when we run and hide from who we are where the trouble comes.
So it's so true. Communication, honesty, and just openness can create such a better world moving forward than again, hiding from the issues. If you do have, if you are having suicidal thoughts, or you have questions about racism, or you have questions about just the criminal justice system, any sort of communication can help further the progress of literally every issue in the world. And I get that some people, Langford, I take it that you are very easy to talk to and you're very open. Have you always been that way? Because you seem like you've always had such a jovial and extroverted spirit. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm enjoyable, but also, I can get down too. If you really listen to my podcast, I speak my mind on a lot of things now. Though. I'm not Winnie the Pooh now.
No, I get that. I'm here for that.
Right, I'm a shock jock when I need to be.
Well, I love that about you too. I think that's wonderful.
Right.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to speak with you. Continued success with your podcast, and mainly just continued success with your openness and ability to connect people. We're so grateful that Julie Lally reached out to have to tell us about your podcast and have you on. And we've never met, but I hope to someday meet you in person and shake your hand. And I hope that you continue these conversations, these hard conversations, but much needed conversations in St. Louis.
And like I say, I thank Julie Lally. She's been an angel to me. She's really been an angel. She's a definitely good person. And I thank you two, because I think you two are doing a great job. I think you two are doing a great job, and keep up the good work and keep extending your platform out, what you're doing in St. Louis. You're doing a great job. Now, I have to ask you two a question.
Okay.
You know who the most dangerous man in the world is?
A blind man with a podcast.
You close.
Oh, what is it?
A blind man with vision.
That's right. That's right.
Blind man with vision. That's right.
Langford Cunningham, he is the host of Blind City, the podcast. You can find him and his podcast at blindcitythepodcast.com. Langford, you are always welcome on our show. Thank you so much for being here and an advocate for change.
Hey, thank both of you, and thank you what you're doing for St. Louis, and we're both out here trying to bring people together, and I really appreciate your platform, and thank you to all your listeners. And if you go on my website and check out any of my podcasts on YouTube, Blind City, the podcast, hey, send me a message, give me some ideas, give me anything. If you're dealing with anything in life, you can email me at blindcity314@gmail.com. I love to hear from the people.
Thanks for listening to Talk of the Town. We'll be back next Sunday morning. Talk of the Town is a public service of Hubbard Radio St. Louis. If you have any questions about today's program or previous programs, email the show at talkofthetown@hubbardradio.com or call Hubbard Radio St. Louis at 314-983-6000.